Hi guys, it's Prince from GG and Prince, here with another deck profile. Today we've got another variant of one of my favorite monsters, Dark Magician. This is a branded bestial variant that leverages the Branded Fusion cards, just the Albaz cards in general, and also the bestial monsters, who obviously are all Dragon Effect monsters, to help you get out one of my favorite boss monsters, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, who you can see on the deck mat. And in general, help break your opponent's boards with some powerful spells and traps, and fuse away your opponent's monsters to help OTK them. So without further ado, let's get started with the monsters. We're playing 3 copies of the Ultimate Wizard himself, Dark Magician. This deck does actually work pretty well with just 2 copies of him. I do play 3 though, because, in case 1 or 2 gets banished, which either can happen because of your opponent's cards, but also with some of the fusion cards that we play, you always want at least 1 Dark Magician in rotation. So having this card either in your hand or in your graveyard can help enable a lot of your plays, so it's good to see him early and often. Being a normal monster, this is sometimes a brick in your hand, but we actually have a lot of ways to still make use of him, even if you end up hard drawing him in some cases. We're playing 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl to help give us some more options for our extra deck, as you'll see later, and also to help us draw 2 off of Soul Servant, which one of our powerful spell cards. We're also playing 1 copy of Timaeus, the United Dragon. He's a Polymerization on legs, also a Dragon Fusion monster, so having a Dark Magician on the field plus him on the field is an instant Dragoon. And he's also special summonable by distributing any spellcaster monster or discarding a spell or trap that mentions Dark Magician. We're then playing 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos. This is a pretty important starter for the deck. You can add any Dark Magician or non-ritual monster that mentions Dark Magician from deck to hand, so it can help you get to your Timaeus, your Magician's Rod, your Magician's Souls, or even another Dark Magician, depending on what you need at the time. We're then playing 3 copies of Magician's Souls. This is your most important starter, actually, since this can they can help do one of 2 things. One, it gets you a Dark Magician to the graveyard, which you can then summon, or you can end up summoning this card and then discarding up to 2 spells or traps from hand or field to draw that many cards. So, we do play a lot of spells and traps in this deck that are board breakers, but, if you're already broken your opponent's board and you're going in for game, this can help discard some of those, dead spell or traps to give you some more draw power. We're also playing 2 copies of Magician's Rod. We're only playing 2 copies instead of 3 in this deck because this is recyclable. So if you activate a spell or a trap card during your opponent's turn, which we do have a lot of options there, you can actually tribute a spellcaster and add this card back to your hand from the graveyard. So it is recyclable, and when I played 3, I actually found that I was seeing him a little bit too often, especially since he's searchable off of Illusion of Chaos. So 2 seems to be a pretty good fit for this deck, since this isn't a pure Dark Magician deck. It is, using some of the branded cards. So speaking of the branded cards, we're actually playing 2 copies of Fallen Of Albaz. This is the other star of the deck. Very powerful card in his own right. He can fuse away one of your opponent's monsters on normal or special summon, but more importantly, he himself is a Dragon Effect monster, so Dark Magician plus 1 Fallen Of Albaz equals a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, so this helps really enable some of your extra deck plays. To help out Albaz, we've got 2 copies of Blazing Cartesia. So she actually fits right at home in a spellcaster dragon deck. So, we play a lot of spellcasters because it's Dark Magician, and obviously a lot of dragons to help enable Dragoon. So she's pretty much like Timaeus, where you can quick effect, fuse away 2 monsters, basically acts as a polymerization. So she can help make, if you end up with a dragon and a Dark Magician in your hand, you have no way to summon it, you can use her to ditch those 2 cards, make a Dragoon. She herself can act as material for the Dark Magicians, since she's a spellcaster. And in doing so, say you draw a Dark Magician Girl, which otherwise is a dead card in your hand, she can help fuse off that Dark Magician Girl into the Dark Magician, so helps extend some of your plays. Apart from the branded cards, we're also playing a Bystial package. Now we're playing 2 copies of the Bystial Lubellion. So only 2 because we don't actually need him all that much. He's mainly an enabler to help get other Bystial cards from deck to hand. We actually won't be summoning him very often. Again, he's mainly a kind of a starter in the same vein as Magician Souls. We're also playing 1 copy of Bystial Magnamhut to help search a dragon monster in the end phase, which most often is going to be your Bystial Druiswurm, which we're playing 2, but you could also search a Timaeus off of Magnamhut for some follow-up. So of course we're playing Druiswurm. His effect is great. He's, can send a monster from field to graveyard, non-destructive. So just in general, a great monster to have, and of course is a dragon to help enable your Dragoon plays. We're lastly playing 1 Bystial Saronir to round out the Bystials. This can help mill a Lubellion to your graveyard or help mill some of your branded cards for follow-up. And to finish up the monsters, we're playing 1 copy of Effect Veiler. So of course this is a monster negate during your opponent's turn, but more importantly in this deck, discarding this card helps enable your Bystial plays, especially if you're not playing against a deck that has a lot of dark or light monsters. Say you're playing against Fire King or a water attribute deck. You're not going to be able to summon your Bystial since your opponent doesn't have any monsters in their graveyard for you to banish. But having an Effect Veiler in your own graveyard gives you at least that material to be able to summon a Bystial monster. That does it for the monsters. On to the spells. So to start off the spells, we're playing 1 copy of Dark Magical Circle. This is kind of odd since usually in my my Dark Magician builds I play 2 copies of this, but making the Dark Magician triangle, so to speak, where you've got Dark Magical Circle, an Eternal Soul, and a Dragon Knight, is not actually one of the win conditions for this deck. So this is really more of a nice to have. If you end up summoning a Dark Magician while it's on the field, you get a banish. But this is most useful in being able to stack your deck. So we do play a lot of draw power cards, and being able to stack your deck and potentially even pull Dark Magician spell out of those top 3 cards is really where the power of this card comes into this deck. Speaking of good cards to pull off Dark Magical Circle, we play 1 copy of Magician's Salvation. This can set an Eternal Soul from your deck, but more importantly, this can actually help you flood your field with monsters. So if you special summon or normal summon a Dark Magician or a Dark Magician Girl, you can summon the other one from your graveyard. So it helps you link climb, it helps get you material on the field for fusion summoning, or to help build a defensive wall if you need to, protect against some of your opponent's attacks in the battle phase. We're also playing 2 copies of Soul Servant. We're playing 2, not 3, because we don't actually want to see multiple copies of this card in this deck. This deck does have a blend of Dark Magician and Branded, so this is more to help search out any missing pieces you might have for your Dark Magician plays, or to help you just gain card advantage by banishing and drawing up to 2, since you do play Dark Magician Girl. For some of the fusion enablers for Dark Magician, we're playing, of course, 1 Secrets of Dark Magic. This is a quick play spell. It can help you, go in for game, since you can activate during battle phase. We're playing 1 Eye of Timaeus, which turns just a Dark Magician into any fusion monster that mentions him. This is not searchable off Magician's Rod, unfortunately, but it is a great card if you end up opening it. 1 Magician Souls plus an Eye of Timaeus is a Dragoon, since you can just summon a Dark Magician and then Eye of Timaeus him into a Dragoon. And lastly, for the fusions, for the Dark Magician fusions, we're playing 1 Magicalized Fusion. Again, if you have a Dark Magician and a Dragon in your graveyard, you can banish them with this card to summon a Dragoon. We're also playing 2 Preparation of Rites to help search out your Illusion of Chaos. This is also good bait for Ash Blossom, since this is not a once per turn. So even if you have an Illusion of Chaos, it's helpful to play 1 of these, add the second one, and if it gets ashed, you're still able to activate the search that you want. Now for the branded spells, we're playing 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Probably the most important fusion card in your whole deck. This can help unlock a lot of your plays. You can end the board with a Mirrorjade, a Dragoon, depending on what else is in your opening hand, potentially even both, which is a pretty hard end board for your opponent to deal with. We're also playing one copy of Branded in White. This I actually like to use in the same way as Magicalized Fusion. So you can banish fusion materials from your graveyard if you end up using Fallen of Albaz as one of the fusion materials. So again, if you have an Albaz and a Dark Magician in your grave, then you can use Branded in White to banish them and fuse into a Dragoon. To help protect some of your fusion plays, we're playing one Branded and Lost. This makes it so that any of your cards or effects that include fusion summoning can't be negated. And if you do fusion summon, you can add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from deck to hand. So, your Cartesia, for example, you could pull it out of your deck. We're also playing one Branded Regained. This deck does do a lot of banishing, either through Dark Magical Circle, Magicalized Fusion, or any other cards I mentioned. And this helps you, one, get draw power and recycle some of those cards. But two, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can special summon a Bystial monster from your graveyard. So this helps you to, spam Druiswurm's effect, or to help you get dragon monsters on board to enable some of your fusion plays. For some of the helper spells, we're playing 2 copies of Fusion Deployment. This can help pull out a Dark Magician or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck directly onto the field. This does prevent you from summoning from your extra deck other than fusion monsters, but our extra deck, as you'll see, is predominantly fusion monsters, so it's not as much of a handicap as in some other decks which play a wider variety of extra deck monster types. We're also playing 2 copies of Super Poly, so you'll also see the theme of this deck is there's not a ton of negates, like we don't play a lot of Imperms or Ash Blossoms, but we do play a lot of board breakers to help just, clear out your opponent's board during your turn. This is one of those board breakers. You can normal summon an Albaz. Even if your opponent has a monster negate on board, you can Super Poly the Albaz and one of your opponent's monsters away. So a very powerful card here. We also have 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent to help either draw cards, rip a card of your opponent's hand, or take one of your opponent's monsters. So it's a pretty versatile card in this deck. And to round out the spells, we're playing 1 copy of Called by the Grave to banish pesky monsters from your opponent's graveyard or protect your own plays from hand traps. And lastly, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster to get rid of some back row. That does it for the spells. On to the traps. So we don't have too extensive of a trap lineup here, given that this is a pretty spell-heavy deck and relies a lot on moving quickly to enable your fusion plays. But we are playing 1 copy of Eternal Soul to help bring back Dark Magicians and also to protect Dark Magician on your field. We're also playing 1 copy of Branded Retribution. Of course, this is a great negate since it's a counter trap that can negate any card or effect that includes special summoning. But more importantly, this helps recycle your Albaz fusion monsters from graveyard back to the extra deck. So, the extra deck, as you'll see, is a blend of Dark Magician cards and branded cards, so you don't have a ton of redundancy for your branded monsters. So once you use, say, Mirrorjade's Banish once or twice, or you've gone through a branded fusion line and a lot of your fusion monsters are already in the graveyard, this can help return 2 of them back to the extra deck, which can help, your follow-up plays. And lastly, for the main deck, we're playing 3 copies of Evenly Matched. This is a very powerful board breaker. The theme of this deck is, not really to set up an unbreakable board, but more so that let your opponent do their thing, and then evenly match their board or super poly it away, set up your own powerful board in main phase 2, and then kind of control the duel from there. So Evenly Matched is really good for that. It also, even if you have monsters on your field or any cards in your field that prevent you from playing Evenly Matched, you can discard this as discard fodder for Super Poly, for Dragoon's Negate, or off Magician's Soul's effect, where you can discard spells and traps and then draw cards. So, very versatile card in this build. All right, that does it for the traps and main deck. On to the extra deck. So to start off, we're playing 2 copies of one of my favorite boss monster cards, Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. This is a card you really want to get into ASAP. He's non-targetable, cannot be destroyed by card effects, has an Omni Negate that, every time you use his Omni Negate, he gains 1,000 attack, so can get pretty big, pretty fast, and very hard to get rid of. We're playing 1 copy of Master of Chaos. This is actually your OTK enabler. You can say you have a Dark Magician on the field and Illusion of Chaos in your hand, or even on the field, you can attack with your Dark Magician, quick play Secrets of Dark Magic to fuse into Master of Chaos. On summon, he brings back a light or dark monster from your graveyard, so you could bring back a Dark Magician or really anything, and then go in for game since he is a 3000 attack monster, so you can get a lot of damage in just in one battle phase with this card. We also play one copy of the Dark Magicians. This card actually comes up quite a bit in this build, since it can take a Dark Magician or a Dark Magician girl plus any other spellcaster. So your Cartesia can fuse into him. Even if you are unable to get Dark Magicians in play and you have a Dark Magician girl, you can at least extend that into a Dark Magicians. And this, of course, gives you draw power, but also floats into one Dark Magician and one Dark Magician girl once it's destroyed. So it can really help extend your plays in several ways. So that's it for the Dark Magician fusion cards. On to the branded ones, we're playing 2 copies of Mirrorjade, the Iceblade Dragon. This is your other big boss monster. Whenever you branded fusion, you either want to get into this or your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Also, if you use Albaz's own effect to fuse away one of your opponent's monsters, if they have an extra deck monster, you can make this very easily. We're also playing 2 copies of Albion, the Branded Dragon. This is we're playing 2 copies because you usually want to get into this first off of your Branded Fusion, but also this is a good card to send as cost for Mirrorjade's Banish. So it lets you set or add to hand a branded spell or trap. So a good target is setting your Branded Retribution counter trap, and then for follow-up, when you get a negate from during your opponent's turn, and also recycle any of these cards that were in your graveyard. And then lastly, 1 Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, to help you get into Dragoon, since you can make him with an Albaz and Dark Magician, and then fuse, then shuffle back the Albaz and Dark Magician, or him and a Dark Magician to make a Dragoon. We're then playing a small Super Poly package, 1 Garura, 1 Predaplant, Dragostepelia, and 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp. I forgot to upgrade the rarity of that. I actually do have a really nice one. But in any case, these are all your Super Poly targets, depending on what your opponent's playing. You can either fuse 2 monsters with the same type and attribute but different names, 1 fusion monster and 1 dark monster, or 2 monsters with the same type and same attribute but different types. So pretty versatile package here. This is also in general just a very good card, since almost always you'll have a fusion monster on the field, and this also has a built-in monster negate, so that's very useful to have. We're playing 1 copy of Chaos Angel. This card is actually very easy to make in this deck. You can make him either with a Dark Magician and a Magician's Rod. You can make him with your Cartesia and any of the level 6 Bestials. So it protects all your monsters from destruction by battle. And all in all, it's just a very hard card to get rid of. It also has a banish on summon. So also one of my favorite extra deck monsters, although I wouldn't say it's a boss monster in this deck. Lastly, we're playing 2 link cards, 1 Selene and 1 Access Code. The Selene is really just there to help you link climb into Access Code, so it's a pretty easy to make link 3 that lets you pull a spellcaster out of your graveyard or your hand, and then you can easily link 4 into Access Code, which obviously is a really big card, can get 5300 attack, and then helps break your opponent's board and go for game. So that does it for the Branded Bystial Dark Magician deck profile. Comment below what you might do differently with this kind of deck. I know the extra deck actually I've played around with a lot of different variations. More link monsters, more branded monsters. So there's a lot of flexibility here, and even in the main deck, swapping out your board breakers for negates or things like Droll and Lockbird. Those are all different ways you could play this deck. So curious to see what you guys think. Comment below, subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and let me know what other deck profiles might be fun to see. That's Prince from GG and Prince, signing off.